Hello and a very warm welcome to the form as we build into what is going to be a massive weekend, of course, with the Cox Plate across the ditch and plenty of interesting action here in New Zealand as well. Let's kick things off with the agenda. We kick things off with Bevan Sweeney, who talks us through the Woodville meeting and also a little look at the Group 3 from Trentham on Sunday. We then get to the harness action with Craig Thompson as he takes us through Alexandra Park on Friday night. We then link in with John Barry, who has a Group 1 charge in Callsign Mav and the Cox Plate on Saturday, and then across the ditch with Jason Richardson to get all the latest and greatest from the Cox Plate, and also, of course, a little look at Friday's Group 1 Manikato Stakes. Well, first on the form this morning, we get to catch up with Bevan Sweeney. Bevan, great to have you with us, and we're looking forward to that meeting at Woodville, I understand.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Emily. Still rain-affected track conditions here in the Central Districts, both Woodville and, of course, Trentham on Sunday, for the Thompson Handicap. So we'll see how these fields really shake up at midday. However, I do think there are a couple of nice bets on the program there today.
Tell me a little bit about those bets. Race number 4, obviously, I think is your best.
We've spoken about this also on a couple of occasions, Emily. Vesperado for Gary Vole, but it has been scratched on 2, maybe even 3 occasions. It's a horse that is nominated down south for the Guineas. They just haven't been able to get a run into it. So it's a horse who's got a lot of ability. Its one and only start was a good second. It's fresh up this preparation. Trials have been really, really smart, and I think it's in the right sort of race. It will more than likely come in and win quite convincingly, and then possibly down to the Guineas. But it's getting away a little bit late in its preparation to get down to Rickett.
And then we head towards race number 9. You've got 2 for us on this one to keep an eye out for.
I have. Now, we've spoken about Rue Claire before for Bryce Newman, beaten by a very smart horse out of Tony Pike's barn on debut. Came out and won really nicely at Waverley and stretched out over the last 100 metres, and it is a horse that I think will get up over the ground really nicely. Now, not 100% sure at this stage whether Bryce is going to start if these track conditions stay where they are and there's no improvement. I can tell you it's dull overcast in this part of the land at the present moment, so if they get a bit more rain, I'm not sure it'll start. If it doesn't start, well, if it starts back out, if it doesn't start, Fitty Fortnight for JJ Rayner has run a couple of very good races this time in. I think if it gets in the right spot in this particular race, it should be winning in behind Rue Claire if it doesn't start. So they're probably good bets if they both start as well. They've both got good quality and they can both run a race, but I just like Rue Claire is a horse that you can really follow going forward.
Whilst we've got you, Bevan, I also just wanted to pick your brain about the Group 3 Thompson Handicap on Sunday at Trentham. I heard you pre-race, the Red Badge Sprint, talking about times ticking. Really ran exceptionally well into second behind 2 Illicit. Are you following the horse again into the Group 3?
Well, he's flying. He really is flying, isn't he, Emily? He was caught 3 wide the trip at Hastings, and 2 Illicit got a soft suck into the race. Beautifully ridden by Michael McNabb into that particular race, but I'm not sure he could have beaten 2 Illicit. She just pinged away and had a lot of quality, but he is really going well. Finished into a beautiful horse. I think he's right up there. We may even see him in Group 1 sprints this season. He's that type of horse that's developed so nicely. Gets in nicely weighted against Just Ask Me. Just Ask Me is a wet track specialist. Now, we're heading to Trentham. We haven't been there for ages, Emily. It's always a mystery to me. We have this beautiful racetrack at Trentham, and it's hardly ever used. So we go there. It's a heavy 11 at the present moment. Forecast is for drying weather. However, it sits in the valley, as you know. Drying takes a long time there at Trentham. So still expect it at best, I think, to be a slow 9. So that probably advantages Just Ask Me, albeit it has a very big weight. You'd have to think Just Ask Me is coming to the end of its preparation this winter. Is an out and out wet tracker, and Alan has placed this horse very carefully over the season. So this might be the last shot for Just Ask Me, so he'll be really ready to go. You've also got Frontman in down there for the Baker and Forsman team, who's obviously got a lot of quality. If there's further rain, I think that'll take Tom Sticking top end away from him, and Just Ask Me is a tough wet tracker. Weight, they probably come out about even. But I'll be sticking with Tom Sticking through the summer because I think he's one of the more exciting sprinting type of horses coming out of the Central Districts at the present moment. So not a big field at Thompson. However, you've got a bit of quality across the top there. Just Ask Me, Tom Sticking, Frontman, and crowning stars in there for the Benner and Wynyard team who would like a wet track as well. But not a lot between those two. It'll either be Tom Sticking and Just Ask Me. If it's wetter, I think we'll stick with Just Ask Me. If we get a little bit of drawing, I think Time Sticking's going well enough to beat.
Awesome stuff, Bevan. Thanks for your time, and of course, look forward to that Woodville meeting.
Thanks very much, and have a good day.
Well, it's my pleasure to introduce Craig Thompson here on The Form. Craig, great to have you with us. We've got lots to talk about because there's a big night at Alexandra Park, isn't there?
It is, Emily. It's another road to the New Zealand Cup for the Northerners anyway. The Southerners are well on their way. We've had one last week or a fortnight ago with the Spring Cup. Now we go to the Holmes DEG, which is race number 7. And it's a race that obviously was won last year by Copy That. He's in there again this week, Emily, off the 30-metre handicap. He's come up pretty short. Bookmakers have got him around about the $1.60 to $1.80 mark at the moment, which is really skinny. Considering he starts off 30 metres, he did win off 30 metres last year, but it was in different circumstances. There was 5 runners off the 30. This week, he's the only horse there, and he's got to get round his main opposition who've got a head start on him. So I'm not convinced he's past the post. I actually do like one in the race. I think it's a really good bet, and I'm going to tip it to the viewers quite strongly, and that's Bad to the Bone. Now, he's $4.50 as we record this, Emily. He ran second to Copy That in the Spring Cup a fortnight ago, and he sat parked outside him. He had the tougher of the 2 runs. He's 10 metres advantage this week, and I think that may be enough to turn the tables. So race 7, number 7, Bad to the Bone, they put the blinds on. I think they'll look to be pretty positive with him. Scott Phelan takes the drive. So I'm going him just over Copy That. Not much between them, but you're getting a better price at the $4.50. And I think the horse that ran third in the lead up a fortnight ago certainly can be in the mix again, and Christians have time. So race 7, number 7, I like the $4.50.
Love it. Love what you're offering, and especially at longer odds too. Let's also talk about race number 5. That's the Woodland Stud Size Stakes Heat 4. Paulie D, the short-priced favourite after that last start victory, Craig.
Yeah, it was a nice win too. He's looked a nice horse coming through. Obviously, he's been put aside, come back, 2 runs back, a very good second, and then 1 spot better a fortnight ago after leading and winning. Biggest test today because there's some nice horses in here, the likes of Major Perry, Mr. Ibiza, Montana DJ. I think he's got the draw to win. I wouldn't take $1.60 myself. I think that's skinny enough. I think there are value in the race. I think Major Perry's certainly one that I think is a big improver on last week's heat at Cambridge. I think Scott Phelan back on board, knows the horse a lot more. Nice draw. I think they're the clear top 2, Emily. Just thinking the favourite's probably underpriced at that 160.
Craig, now it comes to the crunch where we put you on the spot and ask you for your best bet with regards to that Alexandra Park meeting.
Well, I think, as I said to you, I think Bad to the Bones 420 is really appealing at the moment. So as long as that lasts, as the day progresses, there is one going around earlier in the day I'm quite keen on in race number 2. So that's a star trialist to you, Emily. I won't say it's a value because I'm not sure what the bookmakers are going to open as we're recording this. They're not out. But race 2, number 7, Old Town Road is on debut. Now, his last 3 trials in October are all trial wins, 3 for 3. He's come back very well, and I like the way he goes. He's got a real good action about him. He's taking on what I think is one of the best maiden fields I've seen in a long time at Auckland, so there's plenty of form in there. But race 2, number 7, Old Town Road, put him down as something to follow.
Well, with it being a public holiday over the weekend, Monday also provides some wonderful harness action. And Craig, it's a really good program. Wanted to pick your brains about race number 7, the Group 2 Ashburton Flying Stakes. What can you tell us about this one?
Well, it's always been the best lead-in race to the New Zealand Cup. When you go back over probably the last 20 years, the Ashburton Flying Stakes has been the key lead-in to the New Zealand Cup. Of course, last year, taken out by Copy That. He won't be there this year. He's at Alexandra Park on Friday night. But it's a really good field. We've got Self-Assured, last week's promoted winner over South Coast Arden. Pembroke Playboy, who was fantastic behind South Coast Arden. And then we've got the 3-year-old, who's a real surprise nomination in here, in Krug. So this is going to be a great race. Of course, he was supposed to go to the Breeders' Crown. Australia off the cards at the moment. He'll stay here and head for the races like the free-for-all through Cup Week. Great to have him at Ashburton. But you can't go past Self-Assured, Emily. He's a horse that I thought was great last week. He got promoted, but I think if he'd run straight or had got a clear go at them, he would have won that race anyway. He's off the front. There's only 5 off the front, then the 3 are off the unruly. Mark Purden takes the drive. and he likes Ashburton. Big track manners have been good in the last couple of weeks. So race 7, 3 Self Assured. Very interested to see how Krug goes. Standing start. What I can tell you, he actually had a trial between races at Eddington last Friday night, stepped away in that trial and beat Laver, and he did it very, very nicely. He's come back really well, Krug. And Pembroke Playboy has to go in your top 3. Very good manners, very good second behind South Coast Arden last week. He's on the improve. 3-5-1 in the Group 2. Going to be a great race on Monday. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, it sure is. The other race I just wanted to ask you about was race 6, the Group 3 Ashburton Sprint Trot. Tell us a little bit about this one.
Yeah, this race used to be the mile. Now they've changed the distance to 1,700 metres, which I think is a really good move for the club. Extra 100 metres leading into that first bend. Horses a little bit out wide, got a bit more time to get across. It's a race where Muscle Mountain's come up a 290 favourite. Now, he disgraced himself last Friday night, where he stood on the mark, went backwards and took no part. Punter's not happy, gets to a mobile this week. He's 290. Bolt for Brilliance, very good 4th out of that race last week behind Sunday Sun. Of course, Tony Hurley, under the COVID restrictions, can't get to Ashburton. So Jimmy Curtin, as he did last week, will take the drive. He's a very good miler. Of course, he won the Jewels. But the horse that I like is the horse that won the race last year. He's a bit of the old war horse. You think of him as being old, but he's only a 6-year-old. But he's a multiple Group 1 winner in Australia, and this is his race. He hasn't got a lot of form, but he's always been a great short distance horse, and that's Majestic Man. Barrier 4, he won this race last year by leading. I think he'll be adopting the same tactics this year. From that draw, I see him leading for a majority of the 1,700, and I think he can get home. Bookmakers have put $4.50 up. I think that's okay. He's third line of betting at the moment. He went 154 to win last year. This field's got a bit more depth in it, Emily. But in one, race 6, number 4, Majestic Man.
Awesome stuff, Craig. I know it's pretty early on as we record this preview, but is there anything else on the programme that's interesting you there at Ashburton?
Well, it is a good program. I think later in the program, especially getting to the back end of the program, race number 10, the Trot. There was a horse last week that got badly checked at the start called Doff Your Cat. That's race 10, number 12. It's a horse that I think is a very good beginner. I think Ashburton will suit him. He won't start favourite in this race. He could be $6 or $7. Race 10, number 12, Doff Your Cap. You're looking something outside the square.
Thanks for your time, Craig. Awesome to have you with us.
Thanks, Emily.
Well, now it's time to link in with John Barry here on The Form. And of course, John, it's a pretty exciting time to catch up with you because Call Sign Mav is taking his place in the 101st running of the Cox Plate. How are you feeling?
Yeah, pretty cool, calm and collected, to be honest. The beauty is I have been there before, so I know the layout of the track and everything and what will happen on the day. So just, you've seen it before and know it, which is great. But obviously can't be there this time, which is disappointing, but that's the world we live in.
Tell me, when did Call Sign Mav fly? How has he settled in? What's been the feedback?
Flew over on Wednesday the 13th, settled in really well, very quickly actually, which is great. Danny's been happy with him. He's staying there at Danny O'Brien's at Flemington. Couple of crews camped around and had a look at Flemington, and went to the Valley Saturday, had a look, and worked with Miami Bound, did that great, and obviously had the breakfast of the best on Tuesday.
And what was the feedback from Luke Nolan, who of course will be riding him in the Cox Plate?
Yeah, Luke was great. As he said, I warned him, he's a very lazy track galloper, and hence blinkers and a mate and all that to keep him switched on. He saves it for race day. But Luke was really happy. He said he felt great. He did everything good, really balanced, and didn't look too much at the surroundings. So he's pleased. He's glad. And, it's obviously a pickup ride for him. Unfortunately, Jonathan can't go, and he's got a ticket in the big dance on Saturday.
Tell me about tactics and what you're thinking. It's obviously a smaller field than perhaps we've seen in previous years with just the 10 starters. We've seen him in that customary role of being on pace. Will you employ those same tactics when it comes to the Cox Plate?
I guess it will be up to Luke, but he is an on-pace runner, and I know some of the people have said we'll lead, but reality is, he led in the Tarzino, but that was by default, really. He had 4 or 5 kicking up underneath him, and we just had to keep going forward from the wide draw to get there. But I can see, in a perfect world, I can actually see us just sitting in the trail somewhere. I think one of the 3-year-olds will go. I don't think James will hold Zaki up. Maybe you could do an interview with James and find out for us. But I could just see us sitting on the back of him would be great in the first or second pair in the running.
Has this whole experience, obviously, I know there's a lot of press around the Cox Plate. Has it brought back a lot of memories for you from 2011?
Yeah, I guess, we were there with Jimmy. He was a pretty good horse of the year and a genuine chance and second favourite. We're a long shot this time and probably rightly so. However, all we can control is the horse and what we've done with him, and everything's just been faultless, right all season, to be honest. So, really happy with him. And, that's all we can control. So let's bring it on.
I know I was doing an interview earlier on in Australia, and I said it's not an afterthought, this race, is it? And that's really important because it is part of your plan.
Yeah, look, it sort of took shape about 14 months ago, to be honest, after he'd won the Tarzino. Once you've been to the Cox Plate and run second, you're actually quite keen to go back and have another go at it. So been always looking for that one horse that can, you need the certain horse that can take that pressure and run like that and run the times, and he's finally come along. But we still had to educate him and make him into a horse. He was only a 4-year-old last season. He was still very mentally weak, physically weak. But the credit to the owners, they let me do what I wanted to do last year. He's had a great season. He never finished out of the top 3 on all conditions and all distances. So, but he's a finished article now, and he's pretty bomb-proof, and looking forward to see what transpires.
Here in New Zealand, we haven't seen him, or we've only seen him once past the 1800 metres. Is that a concern for you heading into a Cox Plate over the 2040?
No, not for me, not at all, and not for Jonathan Riddell, who rides him. Look, the day over at, he ran a great race at Awapuni on what can only be called a very average track. It was sort of a slow 9 on the straights, front and back, and heavy 11, Jonathan said, around the corner. So he's got through it. He saw the distance out. He just got held up and had to balance up, and then came strong again at the end of 2000. So I've got no qualms. I've got no worries. I guess as trainers, we always get asked this. I got asked that, just before Jimmy won the Derby, will he stay? So I think he'll stay. I think he'll stay all day. I think he'll stay till closing time. So I've got no qualms.
And obviously for the owners, they're getting their horse in Australia and going to be able to enjoy seeing him race a little bit closer to home. And I understand they've had a big punt on him. Is it $101 they've backed him?
Yeah, we all got on him early on, obviously, knowing that was our aim, that was where we were going. So there's a fair few tickets riding on him at 100 to 1. So, I guess besides the punt's more about fun and buying a beer with the winnings. They'll make a lot more money out of the first place prize check than they will out of the punt.
And what about for you on Saturday, John? What are the plans for watching the great race?
I'll be at Matamata. I've got 2 racing up there, so I've got it keeps carrying on. So we'll do that. I'm just not quite sure where I'll watch it yet. I'm sort of half speaking to Mark Chittick whether I might go and watch it with him. He's got 2 he's bred there, and obviously I actually trained the mother of Probabile, so I have a little, soft spot for her anyway. So that transpires great, but I'm just sort of working through that as we go.
I hear they throw a very good celebration party as well. If Probabile or Call Sign Mav are able to get up, it might be a good place to be.
It might be indeed, or even Moanga.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to talk about some of the runners you've got later in the week. Woodville, we can start there, and race number 4, Apache Woman. One start for a 4th. Has the horse come on for that run?
Yeah, she's good. She's come really well. It was, she just got caught wide. And she's showing us a lot at jump outs here at Hastings. She's better for the experience. So really looking forward to her running out of a, she's quite well bred, reliable man out of Crickvick. So she's a funny coloured horse. She's one of those horses might just get a bit of a following if she could win on Friday.
And race number 8, She's So Reliable, posted a fresh 3rd at the 1300 metres, came with a really good strong finish, and seems like the natural step up to the 1600.
Yeah, look, really well trained on, lovely, and you're right, like the 1600 and busting to get her to 2000 metres as well. But she's trained on really well.
Race number 9, you've got Ask Pa, who's in a second up state, and you posted a fresh 6th behind Nod of the Head, and that form's obviously been franked from Rotorua.
Yeah, that's dead right. And obviously, was against here at Hastings, a pretty good field all round. So she's a really honest mare that's had a great season last season, culminating in the win. But another one that's trained on well. So just hoping the weather plays a part in the track, and it looks like it will, and we'll end up on maybe a slow 7. Should suit all 3.
And you mentioned a couple of runners at Matamata on Saturday. We might as well cover those off as well. Race 3, bestseller in the 2-year-old race. Not a hell of a lot for punters to go on with this horse. What can you tell us?
Look, she's a really good little filly. Very mentally mature. She takes all the pressure we're throwing at her and stuff. She's unfortunately copped the wide draw, so probably dictates we have to go back and come through them. But just the 3 jump outs for her. She's won 2 of them and done them well. Her last jump out was probably her best, sat back behind them and came through them and went good. So whatever she does, she'll improve. But, the 2-year-old racing, you could go to the trials and do things like that. But she's a Challenge Syndicate horse, and she's just doing everything properly. So we'll throw her in the deep end and see what happens.
And then the other one you've got is race 5, Bold Iris. What did you make of that fresh run after the long break?
Yeah, a little bit disappointed because she'd actually jumped out well and was coming up good, but just went off the boil a bit. I don't know why. However, she seems back and nice. Does need a better track, so it's back to a 5 at Matamata today. Hopefully that rain doesn't come till later and she gets that footing. But she's up in class. She ran a couple of really nice races and won a big race down at Wellington through the carnival. So she's got the ability. So hopefully she's back on song on Saturday.
Well, John, thanks so much for your time today, and best of luck with Call Sign Mab and the Cox Plate. And I know all the Kiwis here will be cheering the New Zealand breds home.
Good as good. Thank you very much.
Well, you're in for a real treat here on The Form this morning because we welcome in Jason Richardson. And Jason, awesome to have you with us, and what I expect is a pretty busy time for you there across the ditch.
Hello, Em. How are everyone in your audience? And you see straight away, listen, I'm proudly wearing the Godolphin shirt because I think there's a big opportunity for Godolphin to win their first ever Cox Plate. It's I've coined it the best 2 minutes in sport, and a lot of people talk about that. The whole weekend's going to be fantastic. So we launch in Friday night, Manikato, and then the WS Cox Plate. You'll see it all on Channel 7 here in Australia, and I think in New Zealand, racing.com. Cannot wait for the weekend. And the only thing that would make it better is if you were with us.
Oh, thanks, Richard. Let's have a chat about the Cox Plate first. And obviously it's a big week build-up, isn't it? And you got to see some of these stars strutting their stuff on Tuesday. Was there a horse in particular that caught your eye?
Yeah, fascinating Tuesday, isn't it? Because Breakfast with the Best, normally it's a fantastic morning because the public gets to come along and there's a lot of fanfare around it. For the second year in a row, we've done it behind closed doors. So that's frustrating in itself. The Cox Plate is a race of so many questions, I think, at the moment, because we look at, say, you take the 2 big favourites in Zaki. What do we make of that run at Caulfield? And we watched him run at Moonee Valley. So he did a bit of track work on Saturday and then again on Tuesday morning. I think it's fair to say he appreciates Moonee Valley a lot better than what he does at Caulfield. He just struggled at Caulfield. But then also the other factor is it was a slowly run race. So James McDonald jumps back on board, and J-Mac knows what's underneath the hood because you and I saw that at Doomben when that was a frantic speed, and there was Zaki up on the speed, kicks clear and wins by, 7 lengths. It was unbelievable. So will James McDonald say, you know what, he's at his best when it's a really genuine test, and I'll go forward and make sure it really is? That wouldn't surprise me at all. I think he's a lot better suited at Moonee Valley. So that's the first thing I came out of Breakfast with the Best. And then we look at Very Elegant and our Australian Horse of the Year, who's, of course, a proud Kiwi as well, being a mare by Zed. She's such a naughty little girl, isn't she? She once again playing around with that head and wants to go faster and faster. I'm sure there'll be a genuine tempo, so she'll be able to relax. Damien Lane, once again, see Damien Lane's riding her for the second time. Mark Zara got on well with her when she ran so well to win a Caulfield Cup and ran well in a Melbourne Cup, but James McDonald knows her really well. Is she at her absolute top? You go back and have a look. I mean, what we saw in the track work is she was very keen to get on with the job. That's normal for her. But then we have a look at the last couple of starts. Good run and good Group 1 win in Sydney, albeit in a narrow margin, and then really, really playing in the Turnbull. Not just the fact that she was well beaten by Incentivise, but it's the horses that went past her in the end. You know, Young Verta going straight past her, and then Chapada. I don't know. I'm worried about her, and I've got a question mark about Zaki. So when we get to who I think can win the race, you'll see that I'm going a little left fielder as a result. I think the best of the Aussies wasn't at track work on Tuesday morning, and that is Animo. He is a serious beast, this horse. 2,000 metres, question mark. We don't know. However, he gives every impression that he is a quality galloper. So I think he'll run really well.
Richo, the draws. With a small field this year, we've got, 10 starters. Does that mean that the draws are sort of null and void, or is there a draw in particular you're excited to see or disappointed, perhaps?
Well, I think Animo will be the one that'd be disappointed drawing barrier 10, being the last to come out, so getting no choice. Keep in mind, for our audience that don't know, the Cox Plate's unique. You actually have your saddle cloth drawn out, and then you get to choose your barrier. So Mwanga was the first saddle cloth drawn out, and they chose barrier number 4. So then the next horse out, I think, was Dalasan from memory. They get to choose. They think, now, do I want inside? Do I want outside? So they chose barrier 3. And then what tends to happen is barrier 1 is sort of a poison chalice we've seen in the past. Hasn't had a winner there since 1950s. So do you want to draw 1? Do you want to draw out? In the end, Animo had no choice at all. The last horse to come out. They'll ride Animo quiet. Now, you look at the 3-year-olds' record in the race, it tends to be with that lightweight. The best 3-year-old chances are those that go forward and put themselves on speed. And we think straight away of the beautiful New Zealand bred So You Think, who was able to do that. I still think he's a huge chance. I think Animo is the best of the Aussies. You know what I love about him? James Cummings was really blunt about the fact that he had that setback leading into his first up win. That was at 3-year-old grade over a sprint. He was still too good. So he won there. He went to the Golden Rose at 1,400 metres. The track pattern didn't suit. He got out of the ruck and charged home and just missed. Then he went to the Caulfield Guineas, 1,600 metres. I thought he was fantastic there to win and defeat Captivant. I thought both of those 2-year-olds are outstanding. I think both 3-year-olds, I should say, will run really, really well. So, but I've got Animo on top of the Aussies.
I love it. And what about the overseas horses? Because for people here in New Zealand, we haven't had the opportunity to see them. They've been racing, obviously, in the Northern Hemisphere, which adds a whole other element. Gold Trip and State of Rest, I'm talking about. What do you know about these two?
Okay, so Gold Trip ran 4th in a pretty weak Arc de Triomphe last year on a really wet track. Last start, he ran 3rd. I've just written down some notes for you. He ran 3rd in the Grand Prix de Saint-Cloud over 2,400 metres on the 4th of July. The horse that he was beaten a length by to run 3rd is a horse called Broome, trained by Aidan O'Brien. To give you some form reference there, Broome ran 4th to Adar in the King George at Royal Ascot. He was beaten nearly 10 lengths. I think Gold Trip is more, I think he's similar to Sir Dragonet, so it needs to be a brutal race for him to be a factor. I think he's more of a Melbourne Cup horse, to be frank with him. He's had that little issue, you know, there was some signs of lameness early on his prep. That's been eliminated now. So he'll run a really good race, but I think he's more of a Melbourne Cup horse. And then we get to this horse called State of Rest, lightly raced horse. He won the Invitational Stakes at Saratoga in America over 1,900 metres. And that's the first time he'd got past a mile in his career. He won by a length, but what I loved about that performance is he was held up, and then when he got out, watch his turn of foot, his acceleration. I thought it was sensational. And then you think, well, who's he beaten? Well, the horse that ran second is Soldier Rising. Soldier Rising then ran second to Yabir in America, and Yabir had won the Great Voltigeur at York, as you know, with your background, always a good horse's race. So there's a tick. De Jour ran 3rd, who ran 4th in the Belmont Derby to Bolshoi Ballet. Bolshoi Ballet ran 4th. He was the favourite for the Epsom Derby, where he was really disappointed, but then he won the Belmont Derby. So suddenly the form references look good. You add in Secret Protector, who ran 5th in that race. He'd run 3rd to Moha Fur, sorry for the pronunciation, in the Hampton Court, always a good 3-year-old race at Royal Ascot. who then ran fourth in a Juddmonte International. So suddenly everyone would be thinking, gee, this is actually a really good form reference, even though it's only Saratoga. You could even go further back to ninth was Cadillac. The start before, Cadillac had defeated True Self and Dawn Patrol at the Curragh. True Self has come out and won in Australia on a couple of occasions, including in McKinnon. State of Rest is acceleration. As soon as he hit the line, the owners contact the Moonee Valley Race Club, will pay a late entry fee into the Cox Plate. He's travelled superbly. Joseph O'Brien's the trainer. I think at $10 or $11, he is a great each-way bet.
Geez, Richard, you've taken me on an emotional roller coaster here. I'm thinking that Animo is your top pick. He's going to win, and now you've chucked State of Rest into the mix. What do you?
I'm backing them.
I'm
backing them both. I think Animo is the best of the Aussies. He's around $5, but State of Rest is a great each-way play at 11.
Oh, I love it. All right. What about Friday night? Because we've got Group 1 action on Friday as well to kick off what's going to be obviously a huge weekend. Talk to me a little bit about the Manicato Stakes. Notice that Sabato Excel and Lombardo, two horses who sort of bounced through their last runs in great form, line up as the two favourites.
Only 3 Group 1 winners in this field. It's a poor edition of the Manicato. There's no hiding that. And the reality of the great success that is the Everest, 4 out of 7 years with the moving calendar, it comes hard up against the Manicato and totally decimates the Manicato. There's no hiding from that. Moonee Valley Race Club have got a big decision to make. How do they work with the Everest? The Everest is going nowhere. Let's make no mistake about that. And the Everest has got so much to celebrate. So what does Moonee Valley do in regards to this race? Because this race is, horrible as a Group 1 sprint. That's the big question mark. Got my Godolphin shirt on because I think Ingratiating can run really well. So I think the 3-year-olds down the bottom, Ingratiating, Sneaky 5, Crystal Bound, they've all got an opportunity to win a Group 1. And it's a Group 1 sprint with, Sabato XL, God love him. He's a Goodwood winner, but is he a weight for age, Group 1 sprinter? No, he's not. What a story he is, though. I want you to think about this when you're sitting and watching Sabato XL on Friday night. He went through the sales ring here in Melbourne for $8,000. He was purchased by the Alice Springs Turf Club. Alice Springs Turf Club then took the horse, and on the eve of the Alice Springs Cup, they have their own little yearling parade where because they go and purchase a few real cheap horses from Melbourne, they take them up there and they try to give the owners in the Northern Territory some horses to race. This was one of those horses. So Sabato XL then had an unbelievable career up in the Northern Territory. He won all the Guineas and he went the lead up into the Alice Springs Cup. That was over 2,000 metres. He failed in that, and then they thought, what's left for him? Oh, we'll send him down to Tony McAvoy and Calvin and see what they can do. He's turned him into a Group 1 sprinter. It's an unbelievable story. So I'm barracking for the story, though I think Ingratiating can bounce back after a poor run last start. I sound like Team Godolphin, don't I?
Yeah, you do. You're going shooting for a Group 1 double with a classic in the mix there as well. Talk me through your best bets across Friday and Saturday. We'll really put you on the spot now.
It depends on the weather. Can I just say that? Thought of that will be really hard to beat early in the card on Friday night if it's a nice dry track and the rain hasn't arrived. How will the track pattern play? That's where it's going to be fascinating because the rail stays in the true position on both Friday and also Saturday. So what tends to happen, as we've seen in previous years, that Friday night, they don't put a lot of moisture in the track. Keep in mind that they're trying to keep it, mark-free, if you like. So it tends to be a bit quick on the Friday night. So on-speed horses can have a huge advantage. Thought of that's one of those. So maybe a little early play there, depending on the markets. There's a lot to play out from a market point of view on a Friday night. I think Ingratiating can run really well in the Manicato, and you can get around $5.50 there as second or third favourite. So that'll be my play on Friday night. I'll wait and see the way that the weather's going to play. And then Saturday, you've caught me right in the middle of a lot of form reference at the moment. I will live and die by Animo and a great each-way play on State of Rest in the Cox Plate. And in the Cup, I expect Pondus to bounce through his really good run. I think, I know you look on the paper and he's run 5th in a Bart Cummings. I thought he was brave there on speed. He'll bounce out of that and emerge as a Melbourne Cup chance, I reckon, out of the Moonee Valley Gold Cup, which is worth $1 million this year.
Yeah, and speaking of the Melbourne Cup, Richo, interested to get your thoughts on Incentivise. Obviously, you were there to witness him win the Caulfield Cup. Remarkable what he was able to do. Do we jump on? Do we take the short odds and back Incentivise for the Melbourne Cup?
He's not over the line. He's got 57 kilos. And where it's interesting, I mean, the Melbourne Cup's different gravy to the Caulfield Cup. And Caulfield Cup, it was a breathtaking win. But now he comes up against the bigger boys. And the bigger boys are the defending champ in Twilight Payment. So he only gets 1 kilo off Twilight Payment. So he's going to need to be a quality stayer over 2 miles. He's a question mark over 2 miles. He's by Seamus Award, who was by Schnitzel. Interesting. Will he run a quality 3,200 metres? What he is class. And Pete Moody's done a wonderful job with him. So he's going to take a power of beating. Would I jump in at $2.40 now in a Melbourne Cup? Hell no, girl. There's a lot to play out between now and then. He's on the same sort of weight as Spanish Mission. He's in the same weight as Very Elegant. I've always believed that she is an aerobic beast. If Chris Waller had her humming, I mean, she was so unlucky in the Melbourne Cup last year. If he has her humming and she runs well in a Cox Plate, don't rule her out as well. And then we get down to some horses down a little lower in the weight. So, no, come on, Em. Keep the money in the wallet just yet. A lot to play out between now and Tuesday week, please.
Well, we might have to lock you in for another blinder call, Richo, to get some more insight closer to the time for the Melbourne Cup.
Anytime. I got my Ty England hat on for Ty England jockey management, so I'm representing a lot of my personal sponsors, aren't I? But anytime, Em, just give me a call.
Awesome stuff, Richo. Thanks so much for your time and your insight, and enjoy Cox Plate Day.
Yeah, good luck.
Well, that's all our interviews done and dusted here on The Form. Now let's have a little look at our best bets and recap what our form analysts have to say. Well, that's a wrap for Friday's edition of The Form. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back tomorrow as we look through Mata Mata, Riccarton, Cox Plate Day from the Valley, and also the Invitation at Randwick.